Again, Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, especially for our friends Christians from the Eastern churches who are celebrating Christmas tomorrow. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We hope that this year will be better than the last few years, while all indications are indicating that could be not the case, and this year, the coming year, could be even worse than the last 2 or 3 years, especially if things escalated in Ukraine and Russians were provoked to go on full-out war with the NATO and allies. For the last 10 years, we have been advising the authorities about the danger of their support and encouragement of the extremists in the society, especially the supporters of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. All our warnings fell on deaf ears, and extremists could, with the complacency from authorities, if not support, a complacency by turning blind eyes on what's happening in Australia with the activities of the extremists. After 11 years, now we are entered a new phase that saw the Labour government immediately after coming to power started repatriating ISIS terrorist members from Syria without any measures to safeguard their return and prevent any spread of extremism and maybe terrorist activities. Here, the Labour said now that it is safe to repatriate women and kids. According to Labour, ASIO and other security agencies had advised the government that ISIS members are not dangerous to be repatriated and settled back in the community and society. And I am happy that David Elliott, a minister in the New South Wales Liberal government, had come on the TV and said this is not the ASIO advice last year, because last year ASIO advised the Scott Morrison Liberal government that it is dangerous to repatriate women and kids from Syria, and the advice was last year that Australia should cancel their citizenship. And suddenly, within 6 months of Labour government, the ASIO advice changed. First of all, I should mention here that I am against cancellation of citizenship of anyone, but the legislation is there, and it is bipartisan support for this legislation. The Liberals and the Greens support this legislation and is still in the place, and the Labour government says we will not cancel the legislation of that allows the government to cancel the citizenship of dangerous people. And who are more dangerous than a terrorist? I don't know, but I'm against this legislation, and I support that each government should deal with its terrorists, bring them back, put them in jail, and go into rehabilitation and all other measures, not release them to the society and then allow them. Maybe the government says, oh, these women and kids will not go and cut the heads of people, maybe, but they will spread extremism, they will recruit for extremist organizations, and they will continue to pose risk and safety risk on the society and the community in general. Maybe not by killing people, but they will spread extremism and recruit and brainwash more people until the extremist or terrorist organization became more powerful, and there is another project somewhere that the CIA and other organizations will need them to send them there or to do something in Australia. But here, what I will talk about, which will be very short, is why the Labour is politicizing the work of ASIO and all other security agencies by enforcing them to give an advice which is not true. Anyone knows that a member of ISIS, a fully grown people who traveled from Australia, from Western democracy, to join to Syria, to join ISIS, a terrorist organization. They are dangerous on the society. Again, maybe they are not dangerous. We know, we saw kids, and I have footages. If the government doesn't have this footage, if ASIO doesn't have this footage, I can provide them with this footage, which was broadcasted by ASIO, where kids shoot people, Christian, Egyptians or others, because they are not Muslims, or because they deemed to be infidels. Kids cut heads of opponents, kids in Syria and in Iraq. So kids can kill, kids can cut heads, kids can shoot, and women's the same. So fully grown women and kids can be dangerous on the society, and there should be a lot of safeguards on bringing these terrorists back to Australia. But we need to be very, very alarmed today, because it seems that Labour are silencing the ASIO and enforcing ASIO to issue, or talking on behalf of ASIO without permission from ASIO, that ISIS is no longer a terrorist organization or is no longer a dangerous organization, which is not true, because we know until now ISIS is conducting terrorist activities in Iraq, now in Iraq, in Syria, in Mali, in Nigeria, in different countries, and in yesterday or 2 days ago in France and in other Western countries. So the danger is not over. The ideology did not evaporate, and the danger is still there, and it is imminent. Any minute could happen. So the government to come and say ASIO is advising us that ISIS is not, members of ISIS are not dangerous in society. This is wrong, and this is politicizing of the work of the security agencies. And we need to hear from ASIO, how did they deem that ISIS is becoming a welfare organization, or an organization that lead people in the mosques and the prayer halls. This is not ISIS, this is not Al-Qaeda. I mean, Al-Qaeda and ISIS were terrorist organizations operating for the last 60 years or so. So we need to know, we as Australians need to know, and then we need to ask the most important question that media is not asking, and I will send this transcript to the or this video to the media to start asking the questions, because even if these ISIS members did not commit any crime, did not kill anybody, did not behead anyone, they still violated many acts, many legislations in Australia. So this woman who's in the court now, and I don't want to be ahead of the judicial system, but from legal perspective, this woman and all women, full grown women more than 18 years of age, who decided to go and join to go to Syria to join a terrorist organization, they violated at least 4 legislation, Australian legislation. They violated the Criminal Code Act of 1995, which ban any Australians from becoming a member of terrorist organization. Just become a member of terrorist organization, you should be, or the punishment could be up to 3 years in jail. So the Criminal Code Act, there is a Crimes Act of 1900, which also any activity within the terrorist organization could bring any activity which involve brainwashing people, recruiting people, or advancing the ideology of the terrorist organization could attract 10 years in jail. Then there is a Foreign Incursion Act of 1978, which means that any Australian who travel overseas to join a terrorist, or to fight within the intention, just intention of somebody to go and travel overseas to join a terrorist organization to fight in foreign land could attract 20 years in jail. And there is a Foreign Fighters Act, which was introduced I think in 2013 or 14, which prevented Australians from traveling to Syria, to Raqqa province and other provinces which is under terrorist organization control. And this legislation attract also 10 years in jail just to travel. Even if you are traveling as somebody who wants to see what's happening, they are not terrorists, they don't want to join terrorist organization, also just to travel to Raqqa, Mosul or other areas under control of ISIS could attract a punishment of up to 10 years of jail, 10 years in jail. So these ladies that were repatriated by the Labour Party, the Labour government recently from Syria, they violated at least 4 different legislations in Australia, which could attract up to 40 or 50 years in jail. And now the Labour government and the supporters, extremists who support this organization, saying this woman, there is no evidence that this woman are a threat on Australia, killed anybody overseas. You don't need to kill anyone. Your action of traveling to Syria is a crime by itself. And in 2015, I was stopped when I left Australia. I was stopped by ASIO, and they said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Syria. I'm going to Syria to deliver aid and as a media commentator, as a journalist also, I was going there to see what's happening. In fact, what's happening actually there." And the ASIO guy, or the ABF guy, which is combined of Federal Police and ASIO and Customs, they asked me, "Are you going to Raqqa?" And I said, I am not mad to go to Raqqa. I am going to the areas controlled by the government. And he said, "If you are going to these areas, we will arrest you on your when you come back, because you are violating Foreign Fighters Act." And there are many people who were arrested when they come back because they traveled to Syria, and some of them traveled to the eastern areas of Syria. When I came back, again, I was stopped in the airport, at the Melbourne airport, and said, "Did you go to Raqqa?" And they confiscated my my mobile phone and computer, and they checked if there is any evidence that I traveled to Raqqa, because traveling to Raqqa and other areas controlled by ISIS is a crime under the Foreign Fighters Act and could attract 10 years in jail. Now, the supporters, extremists who support the idea of repatriating this woman says this woman did not kill anyone. Yes, maybe, I don't know, but they were aware that they are going to Syria. They decided without any coercion, without anyone enforcing them to do this. They decided to travel to Syria and break many Australian laws, and they should pay a heavy price, especially after living there under the ISIS Khilafah. They already become hardcore, brainwashed extremists, at least. Maybe not terrorists, maybe, but they are there. They violated many acts, I said, and they dealt with real terrorists. They married to real terrorists, and they were living there nobody enforced them to go there. I understood when the government said, partially understood, when the government says that the kids of Khalid Sharoof, we need to bring them back. Because they were kids. They were 12, 14 years of age when they left, when their parents took them there. We need to repatriate them because it's not their fault. It's okay. But somebody who's more than 18 years of age, intentionally aware of what they are doing, and they avoided the authorities, they deceived Australian authorities, and they traveled to Syria to be with terrorists or under the control of terrorist organization, married to terrorists. This is a crime that should be punished. And if there is fair income in Australia, these people should be brought to justice. Of course, why people will ask why Labour is showing a lot of leniency with terrorists or people who are extremists, or joined terrorist organizations or lived under terrorist organization control by their choice. It's very easy. Labour did this for electoral gains. The political correctness, the Muslim vote is big in many seats, and it could decide the fate of many seats, at least 15 seats in Australia in a federal government, in a federal election, and in a state election in Victoria, in these major states, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. They play also big role in deciding many seats, and the Labour wants these votes that could come with all these ideas, with all these lies. The Labour is spreading is, I am with multiculturalism, I am anti-Islamophobia, and I want to be human government. This is the major issue here. In addition to, there is another hidden agendas which we don't know. What they are trying to do next, we don't know. They brainwashed, recruited extremists and terrorists and allowed them to travel to Syria and Iraq before to achieve regimes change. And now what they are preparing for us, we don't know. But in saying so, I am very happy that the Liberals at the end now they start to talk, and I saw on the news David Elliott and Susan Lee started to talk about oh, the Labour is allowing extremists and terrorists to come back to Australia, and this is unacceptable. If people start to think that liberals are innocent, they need to think again, because liberals are not innocent, and liberals are doing the same in different ways. And I will talk about this, especially this, in maybe in the next few weeks. But I will give a quick idea about what the New South Wales Liberal government did to allow extremists to infiltrate our public schools, for example. Of course, the Liberal government in New South Wales allowed extremists to flourish in the state, gave them a lot of grants, allowed them to recruit and brainwash freely in the last 10 years or so. But what shocked me recently, that I discovered that the New South Wales Liberal government had allowed extremists to infiltrate our public schools, start to brainwash and recruit underage students at the public schools. And I wrote to the principals of some schools. I said, how did you allow this? This is public school. We are in a secular state, predominantly Christian state. How did you allow extreme Muslim organizations to infiltrate our public schools? And I was shocked that a principal at the school sent me a letter saying, this is voluntary activity, and kids in the school, underage, they have the right, they have the choice to come to participate or not participate in the prayer halls. Because what I discovered, that some schools, especially in the areas with a lot of Muslims there, the public schools allowed or employed a special religious educator, despite the fact that there is no subject at the public school called religious education, but this is voluntary, and they give them a prayer hall to pray the morning, and the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. And Friday prayers. They take the kids from their school, from their classes, and start preaching them with all these extreme ideas. And I wrote back to the principals. Some of these principals said, it is not about voluntary or not voluntary, because for underage students there is no such things called voluntary or compulsory. It is any voluntary extracurricular activity should have parental consent. And parents who complain to me, including myself, who have kids at the schools, I said I and other parents who complained, they did not give permission to their kids to attend this activity, which is not part of the curriculum. And I went and wrote to the Minister for Education, Ms. Sarah Mitchell, and said, this is what's happening. What's happened is violation of all laws and regulations, and including your own regulations, your own laws that is in place in our public schools. Because in the public schools, even under the special religious education procedures, under the other activities of a religious nature in the schools, parental consent is compulsory. Then the attendance list is compulsory, and then the content of the education need to be overseen by the principal and by the school is compulsory. And you and your principals and your schools, these few schools had violated all these principles. What she wrote, she asked somebody from her office to write to me a reply on the 24th of November this year, saying that education, religious education policy, other activities of a religious nature, not procedures for voluntary students' activities. So it is your kid is taking this, or your kid or the other parents' kids are taking these activities voluntarily. We are not enforcing them. And I replied to her, and I did not reply to her, but I already wrote in the first place that it is the onus of preventing underage students from participating in these activities unless they have parental consent. The onus is on the school, it's not on the parents, because it is the same as the legislation around gambling, for example. Underage or under such age cannot go into gambling hall. And if underage, under certain age, go and or found on the gambling hall, the owner of the gambling or the manager of the gambling hall will be fined and could be prosecuted for this. The same with the smoking act. If somebody under the certain age or buying cigarettes from a shop, the shop could be fined and could be persecuted. So it is the same. It is the same. And I talked to my solicitor about this, and the solicitor says it's very clear. The school is in breach of its own of the department's laws and regulations around the special religious education program or procedure. But I said, okay, can I sue them? I said, you can't sue them. They said, okay, we are sorry. And said nothing big damage. If there is a big damage, like if one of the kids of these families join a terrorist organization, they can sue the school and sue the Department of Education. If there is no, if nobody through these programs join a terrorist organization, we can't sue them. I said, this is weird, but there are a lot of other activities we will take, and this is what my solicitor said. You can take this to another levels, including campaigning in the next election about liberal government in New South Wales, encouraging extremists to break the law and infiltrate our schools. But you can imagine the Minister for Education doesn't know the law, doesn't know the regulation, or they know but they want to cover up. And I will talk about this extensively within the next 3 months in the lead up to the next election, because we don't want our kids to be brainwashed and join terrorist organizations. Again, it is very important now to hear from all opposition parties a stand against repatriating terrorists or members of terrorist organizations, or Australians, adult Australians who decided to go and travel to banned areas and live under terrorist organizations' control from coming back to Australia without being persecuted, and many safeguard actions taken to ensure the safety and security of Australia. Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to everyone, and you will hear from us again many times about this issue and other issues in the lead to the next state elections, including our campaign and maybe some candidates that will run on the platform of honesty in politics and alternative from the three-party systems.